When you think of BR titles, you think of Fortnite, PUBG, and if you want to get a little bit crazy with it, you even think of H1Z1. But one of the games that kind of fell under the radar, even though it had a great spike in popularity upon its release, is Ring of Elysium. And this game, I gotta admit, I didn't play too much of it. In fact, the only time that I really thought about it, other than its initial release, is when UMG was like, hey, we're gonna run a special 2-day event to showcase this game before the Thailand Invitational, which is one of the tournaments ROE ran as of recently. And I gotta say, I didn't think too much about it until I started watching it during the 2-day event. And I started getting really excited because it had a lot of features that made the game truly competitive and a lot of fun to watch. So today we're going to be discussing what ROE or Ring of Elysium got right. Now, the number one thing that ROE got right off the start is the fact that you spawn in on the island versus dropping. Every BR follows the same formula. You either drop from a plane, you drop from a battle bus. Really take your pick, right? The fact is, you drop on to the battlefield, whereas in ROE, you pick your spawn location. And this is great because it reduces RNG. Well, you might be asking, how is that so? Well, when you think about dropping in on the map, you have to have pinpoint precision as to the location you drop out of, and then, of course, where you land. And even if you do all of those things correctly, you might not land on the weapon you want to get, or you might land on the weapon, as this happened to Tifu the other day, and it's happened to you, I'm sure of it. You land on a weapon, you for sure think you're the first one to grab it, but then all of a sudden you don't get it, and then you're mowed down by a tactical shotgun, you're mowed down by an AR. Take your pick. It just isn't that fun, and in fact, it's not that competitive. But if you choose where you are going to spawn in on the map like you can in ROE, well, you're reducing the RNG because you know exactly where you're spawning up. You can pick that location, and more importantly, when you do so, you'll be able to grab, or at least you have a better option of getting kitted up to go into the fight. Now, there are a couple reasons, like I mentioned before, reducing RNG, but the number two reason also is when you talk about at least the bus path, it's very unpredictable. So you never know where it's going to cross over the map. But whenever you have a consistent spawn location, you get to pick where you want to go. It gives you more of a strategy in the beginning game in order to plan out your route throughout the game. You land at a certain location, you master that location, and then you pretty much have set routes. Regardless if the zone is randomized, you'll be able to go through about the game as you want to. And this gives you a better chance to kind of master the game versus having RNG kind of control beginning and middle game. Choosing your spawn location is a huge positive. It gives control to the player, reducing RNG, and overall, it's just a great thing ROE got right. Now, the second thing ROE did right is the fact that they have set classes for players. Now, they have 3 classes to choose from. This includes the BMX pack, you have the grappling hook pack, and then you also have the glider pack that you can choose from. And each class is unique, not only in the ability that you gain, whether it's a BMX bike, a glider, or the grappling hook, but you also start off with a weapon in your inventory. Now, 2 of the classes, that'll be the BMX bike and the glider, you start off with a pistol, and then of course some meds as well. But if you are to choose the grappling hook class, you start off with a shotgun. So there is some variety in the different classes that you are able to choose from. And I gotta say, having a weapon off your initial start is a huge thing. I go back to what I said about landing out of a battle bus or a plane. You land and you might not get a weapon, and this reduces you to effectively punching your enemies or just going through and pickaxing your enemies, and it's incredibly frustrating if it resorts to that. But if you're granted a weapon by choosing a class off the beginning, and let's say you just so happen to run into an enemy who spawned in the location, or at least around the location where you go up against, and you're not kitted out, but maybe he is, it gives you much more of a fighting chance to fight off your enemies. And therefore, it reduces at least a little bit of the RNG, gives more control to the player at the beginning of the game. And also, too, when we talk about the classes, when you break it down, there's different abilities that, like I said, they have. Specifically, when you have a BMX pack, you have a bike that effectively has no cooldown. Therefore, you can use it as transportation. There are vehicles in ROE, but having the BMX bike gives you an advantage, if you will, of transportation around the map. And you can use this to flank around your enemies or to give yourself a better position in a team fight. It also gives you the ability to push through the map for rotations in general to the next zone. And this allows for a great feel to that set role. And then it also has the same thing with the grappling hook pack. This allows players to traverse open areas, specifically in cities. You can use the grappling hook to go from building to building. It does have a cooldown, but it allows you to, effectively climb buildings if you want to get higher engagement to kind of, rain down bullets on your opponents. But it also allows you to get out of the open quickly so you're not getting gunned down. Or even if you're trying to run away from your opponents, use the grappling hook to get away. It's pretty awesome. But also the glider pack too, which I feel is the most unique aspect of the classes, is it literally allows you to shoot into the air and deploy a glider. Now, this allows you to quickly gain a huge vantage point over your opponents or just get out of a fight. But for me, it's unique, especially late game, which we'll get into. It allows you to get that high ground to maybe look over on the helicopter, which is pretty awesome. But overall, each pack is simple to understand and use, but it's hard to master. And because it's hard to master, it gives those competitive players an edge over the competition and a reason to really develop their skills using a set pack to better mesh with their team or to just be a better player in general. And that's something that ROE got right. Now, the third thing ROE did right is they forced players to play an objective to win the game. All BR titles other than ROE follow a certain bread and butter theme, and that is you land out of a battle bus, you play your beginning, your mid game, and then you go end game. And of course, with Fortnite, it's unique. You do build around, but ultimately the idea is to be the last player standing at the end of the game. And if you have the most eliminations plus a victory, you essentially have the most points, and then you can therefore progress in the tournament or game. But at its simplistic core, it is all about finishing last. But ROE kind of changes things up a little bit, and what they do is they add objectives to the game, or specifically one objective towards the end in the final zone. They allow an evac helicopter to come in. And at this point, you have a couple of options of how you want to strategize the end game. You can try to sneak onto the helicopter. It has 4 seats, and if you do so, well, it basically automatically allows your team to win. However, you can also camp the surrounding area and force and pick off players who are trying to board the helicopter and let your team be the last one standing so you have easy route onto the 4 seats that are available. If you have 20 eliminations and one team, all 4 players or 3 players, 2 players, go and board the helicopter, the team may have 0 eliminations, but if they boarded the helicopter because they strategized it effectively, they win the game, as opposed to the player or the team who got 20 eliminations, they're going to get second place. Now, this forces players, instead of just going all in and being aggressive, they have to play their beginning, middle, and end game effectively because they don't want to lose their teammates. They want the numbers at the end of the game so they can have a better chance of defending or boarding the helicopter at the end. It's a beautiful thing that no BR does as of yet other than ROE, Ring of Elysium. And I gotta say, it is a beautiful thing to see. And it gives a true competitive feel, and it reduces RNG because given the fact that players strategizing towards the end, you're not having as many 3P opportunities and players are forced to strategize. Therefore, the best team at the end of the game is typically going to win. So let's recap on what Ring of Elysium did right. Number 1, you get to choose where you spawn. This reduces the RNG at the beginning of a game, and it also forces players to really plan out where they're going to land. And on top of that, it also forces players to maybe counter other teams. Hey, this team likes to go at this location, therefore if we spawn here, we'll have a better chance of cutting them off for future rotations. It allows more strategies. Number 2, you get to pick 3 classes. Now, this forces roles and gives competitors a player an edge, and it also gives them an opportunity to master the class. Like I said, easy to use, but hard to master. Therefore, a competitive player can really exceed if he chooses to just focus on one class for his team. And number 3, there's a set objective to win a game. and which in ROE, this gives more strategy and more strategy to in-game and increases the chance of the best team winning. Overall, ROE does a great job at reducing RNG, and at a minimum, it gives players more control in the beginning, middle, and end game. Giving players more control allows for a more competitive experience and a more even experience overall. This is something that other BRs have struggled to do, but I think ROE locked it down. I would love to see the ROE scene thrive and grow. And I got to say, they are increasingly popular. And on top of that, they're very hungry and passionate. And they also have a drive to compete. They want the scene to grow. And I think they rightly deserve that. It's a phenomenal game. But even if ROE doesn't grow to the competitiveness that we, like I myself, along with the competitive scene, want to see it kind of grow too, I think it still has a lot to offer. And other BR titles can kind of pick and choose some aspects of that, of the three things that I said they got right. They can kind of choose that and decide what they want to implement in their game moving forward. Overall, ROE, they got a lot of things right. And I think other BR titles can learn from it.